Hello and welcome to the week ahead. There's so much stuff for me to cover, I almost don't know where to begin. Like, I know I can't fit it into a short video, so I'm actually going to record a long video and then I'm going to try to cut it down. So please forgive any splicing you see happening throughout this video because there's just a lot of stuff to cover. But basically, I'll start with the market overall. So ES had the chance to dip lower and it didn't do it again. And that's when I noticed, actually before Friday open, I noticed this pattern that we've basically got a rising channel here on ES and we've got the same thing on NQ. A little bit lower, but same thing, a rising channel. And so when the market opened on Friday, I was like, if we flush down, I bet we're gonna stop at the bottom of that channel. And so I drew these lines before the market opened, and lo and behold, they held again and they bounced again. So for what it's worth, the channel is there, and like as long as the bottom keeps holding, you probably can expect the top to be tested. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for the market in the short term. And actually, if you jump over to QQQ, I still have some drawings on here from earlier in the week when I was talking to another trader before I had seen that channel or even thought about it on NQ. And I was talking about how, we keep setting these higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Yes, we're sort of in the terms of this like larger term balance over here. So in this larger term balance, which is basically that, we're in the lower half of this balance down here, right? And so that I think is probably scary to some people who think that the market might roll over. But I'm like, the bears never follow through. Like if you look at what's happening here, ever since this day here, it's been higher. And again, on Friday, it was higher again. And so, I've been talking a lot about how tech has been sort of going sideways, and even SPY has been going sideways while other sectors are rolling upwards. And so I'm going to talk about those sectors, which, by the way, that's where I've been taking my trades and I've been having better luck in those places than the places that I used to trade, which is primarily tech. And as they've been going up, this is going sideways. And so and on that side of things, on the other side of the house, it kind of feels to me like things are getting a little toppy. And just when I think they're going to roll over, they just kind of keep inching up a little more. So I'm going to go over some of those charts as well to show you what I'm seeing there. But my thought process was that especially when we had this rally here on Wednesday, we had a really strong day Wednesday where things got pushed up really far. And on that day, after the close, I went through this themes list here, which I've shared on this channel before. And it's basically just a summary of like all the different themes in the market and all the names within those themes that are hot. It's a massive list that I maintain. And I went through every single one and I pulled out what are all the names that were like extra strong today, and specifically looking for ones that are now building higher lows and higher highs, or might be on the cusp of that, because I thought on this day when we got super bullish on Wednesday, I thought if we follow through today, then I want to have a list of names that are showing strength. And specifically, I want to know not just the names, but are there themes, are there groups of stocks that are starting to show strength? Because if a new trend is beginning elsewhere from the place that I've been trading, I want to get in on the new trend. So that's kind of what I was thinking in the middle of the week. And then Thursday we dropped, and Friday dropped, gapped down basically, and rallied out of the gap down here on Q, as you can see. And again, so now I've noticed that there's this channel and it's pushing things up. And so I'm feeling like, I wanted something to happen. I wanted some of those sectors that have been strong to start to roll over. I wanted some of those new names that were showing strength to start to push up. I wanted to see tech try to push up out of this. And like the trader that I was talking to here had said to me, well, even if we get up here, like you're still at the bottom of this whole balance that I just talked about, right? So even with a bunch of strength over the course of a few weeks, it could just fully reject again. And I said, yes, I actually think that's what's going to happen. I think we could get some strength in the interim that's going to push this thing up, but it does have quite a ways to go. And that's what I drew here, is like it's probably going to work its way up here. We'll get some rejection near the top, and then maybe we'll get a little bit lower, maybe come back in, properly test this monthly EMA 12 here on QQQ, which would be pretty sweet because, as I've talked about many times before, that's a really great place to get long. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Maybe we keep pushing this up. Maybe then we come back in and test the monthly EMA 12. That's a lot of maybes and that's a lot of guessing, but I'm just trying to do what I can to try to figure out what's going on. So that's sort of my take on, let me get to the right list here. So that's sort of my take on what's going on with ES and NQ. Now let's go through some of the sectors where I was seeing some strength, and I'll talk about some of the things that are sort of important to me. So XLE has been on an absolute tear since it broke out of this balance back over here. It went on for ever. If I go to months, you'll see it was many months of sideways here that we're finally pushing up out of, right? And so you kind of expect that to have some legs on it, but it can't just keep going straight up. It's got to have some sort of consolidation, because even look at this nice move up off here where you had a nice strong move, then you get a bit of choppy sideways. Eventually the monthly EMA 12 catches up, then you catch a bottom, boom, away you go. So I'm like, we've had a solid move up here on the daily time frame, been riding the daily EMA 12. And then as we started to sort of come back and test it here, we couldn't get higher, came down lower, and I was like so curious what's going to happen on Friday, and Friday we actually did push a little bit higher, but then it pulled back. It's like we just kind of need some more time. We need some more days to see, is this thing really going to take off from here and really going to go or not? And I'd been thinking XOM was going to be the bellwether because XOM pulled back deeper on this pullback than XLE did. And then when it had a nice strong rally here, it actually again pulled back deeper than XLE did, but also still holding the daily EMA 12. It did have this open below, but close right on it, and then basically broke this 4-hour tightening range. I think it was a 4-hour. There it is, 4-hour with extended hours on. You can see this tightening range we were in. And then on Friday, we broke it to the bull side. We actually, in the morning, we touched it and then rejected, and then later in the day, we pushed through. And so that was me saying, okay, bulls are trying. Like it's not, this is a 4-hour time frame. This could still reject and come back down. But honestly, if it was really going to get stuffed, it would probably happen here and already be flushing down. It wouldn't have closed and be moving up in after hours. So this kind of feels to me like, now it's testing this next resistance. It's kind of pushing up higher. Now, the thing is, the market can do whatever it wants, but I generally have this rule. I have this indicator here that I use all the time. What this indicator does is tells me the distance from the 1 day. So 1 day, and then it says arrow 50 day. So this is the 1 day EMA 12, and it's saying the distance from the 1 day down to the 50-day simple moving average. And then I have the dollar assigned to 50 days. So that's from where price is right now to the 50-day, the distance. And so the reason I do that is because I generally have, and by the way, this distance is measured in terms of ATRs, so an average true range on this daily time frame. So typically, so what this is saying is that there's basically 4 ATRs to the 50-day from the daily EMA 12. And so it's because it's just under 4, it's labeled green and has a little green check. And you see how this one, from the current price to the 50-day, it's 4.9 ATRs, and it has a different color, and it's got a little, like a no symbol. So my general rule that I try to follow is I don't want to chase things after they're too extended. And I measure that in the distance from the 50-day simple moving average. If they get over 4 ATRs, any stock, if it gets over 4 ATRs from the 50-day simple moving average, I'm considering that extended. And it's going to have to be doing something very special and have a really solid story behind it in a super strong group that's pushing really hard for me to really want to try to continue to get a piece of a trend that is still continuing when it's more than 4 ATRs beyond the 50-day. So technically, if this pulled in and touched the daily EMA 12 again, I know it would be within my boundaries that I could take a shot, but I kind of feel like I missed that boat. Like honestly, my best shot was already happened, and that was here. If I was going to try to get long, it was on this day, Thursday, and I didn't. Because honestly, this thing kept alerting me all week long. It's alerting me that it's on the day. It's on the daily EMA 12. It's alerted me this day. Alerted me this day. Alerted for like 3 weeks. It's been telling me try. And every time I'm like, no, I think it's rolling over. No, I think it's rolling over. And so I didn't try. And it looks like I might have been wrong. And this is continuing to push up. And XOM, I'm considering it to be the lead general of XLE. And there's a lot of other names in the energy group that are strong and showing strength. But the fact that XOM is continuing to push up and now XLE is pushing up, this is not the rotation I was looking for. I was looking for these to sort of cool off and maybe come in and set some kind of higher low on the weekly, possibly monthly. And no, they're not ready yet. They're still going. And I don't know how far they're going to go. We'll see. We'll see what happens this week. XLI. This is another one. You can see why I've not been chomping at the bit to try this because it's now sort of in balance up here. And it did it back here, right? It had balance and then broke out of it, but it got tighter in there and made it, as price gets tighter and tighter, it makes it more, it reduces the amount of risk you need to put on to get into that for a move. And that's not what's happening up here. This looks more roundy. And I just like, I'm sure it could absolutely continue to go. But I just didn't feel the need to buy this because it's going to chop around here for days. And also, price is currently 4.4 ATRs from the 50-day, and the daily EMA 12 is only 3.64. So it's at the upper edge of where I really want to continue to try to get long on a trending stock. And so again, I take that into account when I'm looking at not just the sector, but the stocks within the sector. I want to see, how extended are they? And so these ones can't really do them. XLU has been showing a lot of strength, and this is interesting because this is a fresh move up, and we're not even on the daily EMA 12 here. You see we're holding above it, so this is probably a 12-hour. Yeah. So you can see this is the 12-hour EMA 12, and it's holding. So that's a faster move up than the others. But you can see it does this, right? And like, I just look at this, and I'm like, oh, it's doing what it did before. So I can measure this and be like, all right, well, how far from here to here? It was 12%, and that sort of topped out the move. And right now, from where price is, it's 5.4 ATRs. And this is showing me the 12-hour to the 50-day, it's 4.5. So like, even if it came back and tested the 12-hour, that's too far from the 50-day for me to try to get long this. And also, if this is 12%, how far is it from this one? We're 10% already. So, if that's generally the size of these legs that happen, then and we're already this far from the 50, I'm like, I don't want to try to get long anything there if this might start to roll over. So I'm a little more cautious on XLE, I'm a little more cautious XLI, I'm a little more cautious XLU, and then XLB, same thing. Let me go back to the daily. Same thing going sideways. This actually looks like a really nice bull flag, and it again is within my boundaries if I was buying it on the 50-day, or sorry, on the daily EMA 12, but I did not. And this looks like it actually could go. This is, you can see it's another tightening range, and this could absolutely push up. So this Home Builders one should be on my list. The reason I didn't is because they had earnings over the last couple of weeks on a bunch of the names inside of this, and so I wasn't really looking at this one. XLV is showing strength. Not the kind of strength that I'm that interested in. It chops, and I'm not a big fan of healthcare stocks personally. I just find them a little more difficult to trade, but it's looking pretty good and strong, and basically is at resistance here. So, and is not too extended from anything. This has legs to go if it wants to. It's super tight. This blue line, this sort of aqua blue line, is the 50-day, so you can see it's very close by. XLP, consumer staples. Again, this looks kind of bull flaggy too, but look at the distance. Price currently almost 6 ATRs, and from the daily EMA 12 to the 50, we're looking at 4.4. So that's why I'm looking at all these other sectors that have been super bullish, and I'm like, they're all just kind of right. They're just getting a little too out there for me to be thinking I want to get long these things still. I want to keep trying to ride this trend. So I'm just kind of waiting for something else to come along. Just so happens I did have some other things come along, but I already did a trade review video. So if you haven't seen it, go back and check my trade review video I did from Friday, where I got long wheat, WEAT, which is a completely new thing for me. I've never traded commodities before, ever, and that one's working. Okay, so TAN was another one that I was trading, and I was actually in TAN. I bought this one on this day, on Tuesday, and it rallied. And then FSLR had earnings that were bad, and it dumped. And since then, another one, I can't remember the name of the one. There's another solar stock that had bad earnings and dumped, and now the whole thing is completely falling over. And this is like, yes, this is like, no offense to people who are long solar. I'm sorry to say it this way, but I was like, finally, something's rolling over. Give some of these sectors a rest, so that things can rotate elsewhere and we can get some other fresh blood moving around, because this is more of what we need here. Okay, so other signals that I'm watching, interesting, SMH hitting a fresh all-time high just straight into a dump, and obviously that's been driven by NVIDIA, which, it's so funny. You draw these lines, like I drew this line across here and look where it topped out, boom, and then I drew this line down here. Do you think maybe it might go down there? If it did, boy, would I be a buyer of that. Touching monthly EMA 12, fulfilling this broadening formation, boom, I'm in. I would definitely be taking a shot long on NVIDIA down there. I don't know if it's going to get there. We'll see. It might just bounce from here. Who knows? But semi is not really in favor right now, and SMH showing it. So SMH still, like, that was an all-time high. So I'm not saying SMH is weak. I'm just saying it rejected that all-time high, coming back in pretty deep after the NVIDIA earnings that pushed this thing down. So, that is weighing on the Qs, and that's why Qs are lower right now. I think why they weren't able to rally up out of that bottom, because this is what was happening. Finally, IGV, so tech software. It did have a close above the daily EMA 12 for the first time. It did come back in and has a potential daily high or low on deck. You can see the drawing I put in here for what I was looking for, an inverse head and shoulders, and it didn't get as high as I was thinking. Or at least what I drew here, the drawing doesn't need to be perfect, but we do have a potential daily high or low. I personally think it would make more sense, just considering how it's moved back here, that it would make more sense to do a little bit more similar move and then really go up. But it's going to do what it's going to do. I will say that Microsoft is the one I think people were really watching, because it's basically below the 200-day down here. Let me show you that. Way below the 200-day. It's way up here. I was reading somewhere that it hasn't been this far below the 200-day in a really, really, really long time. It did touch this anchored VWAP from the 2022 bottom, boom. And so that's something. I mean, this anchored VWAP has been a spot that's held before, numerous times over here, held here, could hold here, and if it does, this is, again, it looks very similar to what I just showed you on IGV, and this is tech software, right? So, but Friday it did come a lot deeper. It tried to bounce, didn't really do a great job. So I don't know, like, I'm certainly not a buyer of Microsoft right here. I'm not a buyer of any of this IGV tech software stuff. I'm just showing you what I'm seeing and what I'm looking for, and not because I'm going to trade it, but because I'm using it to help me understand what's going on in the market overall. Okay, so other spots where there's been strength, I talked about wheat. So this is the trade that I got in. I bought this dip on wheat over here looking for this daily high or low, and Friday was a gangbusters move, so that's pretty great. I'm excited for that. I didn't buy ZW, I bought wheat, which is a very low liquidity, you can see where I got in, a very low liquidity stock. Does not move the same, doesn't hold the same hours as the underlying futures symbol or anything like that. But anyway, LITE, which actually the 50-day, sorry, the daily EMA 12 is not too far from the 50-day. If this did pull in or allow the daily EMA 12 to catch up, this is one I might still be interested in. Lithium, this one has these rogue days where it comes in, gives a dip and carries on, comes in, gives a dip and carries on, comes in, gives a dip and carries on. So it's not too extended. It's just a nice, smooth, steady move up. So this one I'm still interested. Consumer Staples, XLP, this looks like a beautiful flag here at the top. Monster Energy, probably the best performing stock of all time. This thing is pretty crazy. It just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. Really, really slow mover. I have a very hard time getting into this thing, but it's not extended. It just keeps the slow grind going. If you want to buy and hold something, this feels like the one to do so. I just have a hard time getting into this one personally. Okay, I'm going to stop there. This video is, of course, way too long, but I hope that makes sense. This is all the stuff I'm kind of watching. This is all I'm doing as I'm going through the trading week, is I'm looking for stocks that are riding trends consistently and are not too extended. And when they come in for a dip, I'm looking to get long on that continuation of the move, as long as the group is continuing to remain strong, and they're not too extended overall. So that's it. I wish you guys good luck and happy trading in the week ahead. Hey, if you like my indicators on TradingView and you like the content I'm producing here on this channel, please remember to like and subscribe.